Hi, Mohaned. So let's take a look at your essay. I know your exam is coming up on Friday. We'll get this to you as fast as we can. I am feeling a little better today. Still not 100%, but thanks for thinking of me. I do want to get these to you. So let's get started. Give me a second while I just sneeze. Okay, so this is about pollution, the reasons for it, and how it can be solved. Let's see what you wrote. In this modern world, the majority of expanded, old designed cities mix residential and industrial areas together. In my opinion, this results in a humongous risk towards environment, especially when air become polluted. Also, several consequences might happen, like extreme weather changes and increased respiratory diseases. In this essay, I will discuss the causes of pollution and some solutions which might help in solving this problem. All right, well, I liked your last sentence very much. It was accurate, it was clear. You said straight away what you were going to talk about in this essay, so all of that was good. The previous three sentences had some errors, grammatical errors. And so that's what I want us to look at. That's what I want us to fix, okay? So let's see. First of all, we don't say the majority of expanded old designed cities. It's a little awkward and it certainly doesn't sound like natural English. So we need to change that to something else. You could talk about like poor urban design or poor urban planning, or that they lack urban planning. So that might make a little more sense. Why don't we try it with something like that? So in this modern world, the majority of old cities lack urban planning, comma, mixing residential and industrial areas together. In my opinion, this results in a great risk towards the environment. I changed humongous because that's not really a formal word. It's very informal. And believe it or not, humongous is an informal word. And so it really didn't belong here. Okay, so then, especially when the air becomes polluted. Now, the grammar mistakes in this sentence, I really want you to be careful about because they're basic grammar mistakes. I mean, it's present simple and you're forgetting the S in the third person. Look, results in a humongous risk towards the, and when the air becomes. So these are things that you really need to be careful about. Okay. Also, several consequences might happen, comma, like extreme weather changes and increased, with a D, respiratory diseases, or an increase in. Okay, one of those two. But essentially, these three sentences had grammar mistakes that I want you to work on. All right, let's move on to your body paragraphs. On one hand, there are multiple causes. Okay, I don't know why stand is here. I thought you did this in another essay as well. On one hand, there are multiple causes behind pollution. Firstly, exhaust fumes released, with a D, from a large number of cars on roads. I'm confused here about your grammar. Hold on a second. Let me see the whole sentence. Exhaust fumes released from large number of cars on roads as fossil fuel. Okay, that's not a full sentence. It's a fragment. It's missing, either a subject or it's missing a verb, but it's missing a part that makes it grammatically correct. So, exhaust fumes are released from a large number of cars on the roads that use fossil fuel as the main source of energy. Or exhaust fumes are released from a large number of cars on roads and fossil fuel is the main source of energy. All right, either one of those makes sense. You can use whichever one you feel more comfortable with. For instance, in Riyadh, the capital of Saudi Arabia, comma here, more than 2 million cars hit the roads daily and release a large amount, of carbon dioxide, which subsequently it doesn't rise, it raises the atmosphere temperature by 2 to 4 degrees Celsius compared to suburbs around the city. Secondly, Hazardous waste is undoubtedly a main source of water and air pollution. Large landfills usually grow fast and become, not it become, because it could either be it can't be it because it's plural, okay? So large landfills usually grow fast and become a part of some cities. You can't say like here unless you want to attach it to the previous sentence, in which case there wouldn't be a period here, and this would be a lowercase, okay? So, large landfills usually grow fast and become a part of some cities like Marat City in Sudan, where the landfill is very close to the river, which is the main water supply for the whole city. Therefore, the end products of waste, oil, coal, plastic, and detergents contribute significantly to increase the chance, I don't know what you mean here, the chance, and water and air pollution, in addition to increase the danger of global warming. Ah, I see. The chance of is what you mean here. Okay, the other thing that I want to change here is it's not to increase, but it's to increasing. Because, let me see if I can explain this. Contributes to doing something, okay? So when you're using to here after contribute, the to needs to introduce an ing, not a full infinitive. So the verb needs to be in the ing form. So let's try it again. Contribute significantly to increasing the chance of water and air pollution, in addition to increasing the danger of global warming. Okay, so I thought this paragraph was fine. My issue with it is some of these basic grammar mistakes that I really want you to be careful of. I think that in terms of the development, in terms of your vocabulary, I think a lot of it is quite good, but you really need to watch out for some of these grammar errors, okay? Especially the ones that are kind of more elementary grammar mistakes, because while an examiner might forgive a few advanced grammar mistakes, when you make a handful of grammar mistakes in simple grammar, well, they're going to be less forgiving, okay? So keep that in mind. All right, let's go to your next paragraph. On the other hand, people and governments can overcome the risk of pollution, or at least minimize its effect, by implementing strict rules to decrease the impact on people and environment. That's a lovely sentence. Nice work. The first step is to encourage people to use public transport rather than personal vehicles. For example, providing students with a good discount or even free access to city buses or metro will decrease the number of cars by 12%, as mentioned in a recent study published by the Ministry of Environment. An additional step, no comma, an additional step is to add educational material in the school curriculum to enhance responsibility inside the young generation to protect Earth and then themselves. To cite an example, Jordan added a subject called environmental science, get rid of the "and" here, which helps secondary school students to explore the new energy sources and facilitate their invention in this field. Thus, increasing public awareness about alternative transport systems and providing students the knowledge will save with a V, not an F, because you want the verb, not the adjective. Our home, earth, and future. Also, lovely, very nice grammar. Okay, grammar needs to be worked on. It's the one weakness in this paragraph. So let's look at your conclusion. To conclude, pollution is pollution is humanity's, with no the, but apostrophe s, most dangerous risk, which causes major diseases. Cars and factory fumes, with a Y here, no IES. Here you need a comma. So, car and factory fumes, comma, in addition to non-biodegradable waste, comma, are considered, comma, in my opinion, comma, the most dangerous sources of pollution. So you can see this is an expression that has a lot of commas. So I'm wondering if maybe you could have taken something out, because basically what happens is that when you have a lot of commas in a sentence, they act like speed bumps, and that's not ideal. But if this is the meaning that you want to convey, keep it. Although generally it's better to have sentences that kind of flow a little more and don't have this need for quite so many commas. All right, let's move on. So they are considered, in my opinion, the most dangerous sources of pollution. Individuals, authorities, and governments should work hand in hand, not hand by hand, and collaborate to implement new rules to save our cities and enhance community awareness. Okay, that's good. Let's see. Yes. So I like the message. I like the task achievement portion of this essay. I thought you did very nicely. I thought you did really well. Any weakness essentially lies in grammar. This is something that we've talked about over and over again. And it's the main thing that I really pointed out here in this particular essay correction. See what you can do, because a lot of these errors are they're basic grammar errors. And so, as I also said earlier, examiners are not particularly lenient when it comes to this kind of mistake. The good news is that it didn't create any incoherence. But if you are aiming for one of those higher band scores like 7 and above, these kinds of grammar mistakes are going to kind of keep you out of that range. Okay? So just keep that in mind and see what you can do about correcting some of these basic mistakes. Let's go on to the stacked bar chart here. Okay, for some reason the picture cannot be displayed. I pretty much know it like the back of my hand, so I should be okay. Let's see. The given bar chart describes the amount. Well, it's not the amount, all right? It should be actually the number. So the number of Ford, Audi, and BMW vehicles which were sold in 9 European countries during the year 2018. Because there's no relationship to the present here, so you don't need to use this tense. It should just be past simple. Overall, if we ignore the brands, we can see the most car sales among these European countries came from Hungary, in contrast with Belgium's sales, apostrophe S, which were the least. Moreover, BMW brand sales collectively were the highest among the 3 brands. Okay, that's fine. I would get rid of this. I didn't really care for this expression if we ignore the 3 brands, if we ignore the brands. Just say the most car sales came from Hungary, the least were from Belgium, and in terms of brands, BMW was the highest. That's it. You don't need to go into all of this. So, in regards, this is awkward. So why don't we say this? With regard to countries with sales more than 250,000 cars, Hungary sold the largest number by just less than 4. I don't understand this. I see what you're doing. You're using the numbers along the side, so that's fine. Okay, let me try it again, because there's something about this way the sentence is structured that's a little awkward. So Hungary sold the largest number with just less than 400,000 cars, where France came, I want to say in second, not the next, or France came next by around 90,000, less than Hungary. Full stop. Don't even put sales here. It just makes it kind of clunky. While Germany sold almost 260,000 cars, Ireland and Holland's, you need an apostrophe S here, sales were similar to each other, with 250,000 cars sold by each of them. So how many? Okay, interesting. Let's see. Now, I think we've talked about the expression on another hand, on the other hand. That's the set expression. We don't say from another hand. What we do is we have this pair of expressions on the one hand and on the other hand. They have to go together. You cannot use one and not the other. So if you use one in one paragraph, you have to use the other in the other paragraph. So the first thing is that this is not appropriate. All right. And even if you had written it appropriate, it doesn't fit here because you don't have in the previous paragraph on the one hand. Okay. So I would just get rid of this altogether. You don't necessarily have to use a linking device in this paragraph. Okay, or you could have said, are you talking now about the countries that sold few cars? All right, let's see. So you could have said something like this. In contrast, 210 and 200,000 cars were sold in Poland and the United Kingdom, respectively, while in Italy, car sales were just above 100,000 cars sold that year. Belgium recorded the lowest car sales in that year, with Ford brand being the most popular there. So, I want to talk about this last paragraph, but before we do, I want to talk about something really that's much more important. Did you include all the categories? That's the first thing. Well, the good news is that you included the 3 car types. As far as the 9 European countries, I'll have to look. Looks like you included all 9 countries and you included all 3 car brands, and so that's good. That means you can avoid getting a 4 for task achievement. But there's a big problem here. We have pretty much no information about the individual car companies, okay? You told us that BMW sold the most. You told us that Ford was the most popular, but we have absolutely zero data about the car companies, okay? And that's really important. So this is really going to reduce your score. What I want to do is I want to bring up the image and I want to talk about how you could have done this. Okay, so this is the image. I want to tell you how I think you could have and should have organized this answer. Much like you did, I would have used the numbers along the side. I thought that was a smart thing to do. You decided to use 250 as a point. I do it a little differently. So what I would say is that I would start my first paragraph like this. I would say that Hungary sold the most cars of any country at just under 400,000. Following that was France with just over 300,000. The least cars, oops, wait, what happened? The least cars were sold in Belgium at just under 100,000. The remaining countries, and then you can name them if you want, UK, Germany, Ireland, Holland, Poland, and Italy, all sold between 100,000 and 270,000 cars. And then you're done with that paragraph. So you can see I did it in a much briefer way. I've given you a pretty decent range here. I've told you what my outliers are. So I've told you the 2 highest. I've told you the lowest. And then I'm just telling you that the rest of these numbers were somewhere between this, and that's really enough, okay? Then you can go into the individual car companies. I would start off with BMW, and I would say that BMW, let's see, that in all of the countries, approximately 100,000 BMWs were sold. All right, the only exception was Belgium, which sold a negligible amount of BMWs. Then you can talk about Ford. You can say that Ford, figure out what this number is. I don't know. It's probably like 120,000. So Ford sold 120,000 cars in Hungary and in Holland. The least Fords were sold in Germany and Italy, and figure out what that number is. And then you don't even need to mention the rest of the countries. Or you can just say that the remaining countries sold between X and Y number, whatever that number is. And for Audi, you can do something similar, okay? Or you don't even have to go into too many details. You could say the Audis were popular in Germany and Hungary, yet they sold a negligible amount in Belgium, okay? And then you can pretty much figure out where Audi was in the remainder of the countries. So you don't have to go into a ton of detail. What you did is that you decided to go into a ton of detail about these totals, okay? And then you mentioned almost nothing about the individual car companies. And I'm suggesting to you to pick and choose which information is important. Generally, in a graph like this, in a bar chart like this, the outliers are important. And by outliers, I mean those highs, those lows. And then you can kind of like smush together all the middle ones. Mention it with a range, say like, for example, Audis sold between I don't know, 40,000 and 80,000 in the remaining countries. Like just figure out really quickly what that number is and just give a range. So that's the way you deal with this, because essentially this is a graph with 36 pieces of information. You cannot and should not mention them all. So you have to really select what's important. Okay, I hope that helps. I hope that gives you some ideas on how you can organize data like this, especially when you have so many, especially when you have a total. So yes, you have to focus on the total, but you also have to focus on what that total is made up of, okay? So keep that in mind, and let's see more work. I will do absolutely everything in my power to get your next set to you as quickly as possible. So get to it, and let's meet back here with your next set. Good luck.